I'm counting maybe 11. 2, 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, 11. So I believe we have a quorum, and I think we can get started if everybody is ready.
You have a quorum, Clark.
Thanks for showing up, everyone, on Thursday afternoon. Before we get started, does anybody want to add anything to the agenda before we get started? I know I have one thing we've got to take care of. Any others? All right. Well, hearing none. I guess, Eric, you're in the council chambers. Are there any public members of the public who would like to speak?
No, there is no public
No.
here.
We can't hear you, by the way. Are you speaking?
No public. No.
We can't hear you.
They can't hear me.
I can hear her. Clark. Do you not
can?
hear her?
Yes. I can hear her.
Oh, I can't hear anybody. It must be me.
It's your mute going on.
All right, well, all right, so I'm going to have to log off. I'll log back on real quick, see if that works. If not, we'll find another way to handle this. I'll be right back.
Okay. Can everybody else hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Can you hear me, John? Can you hear me, Nancy? Okay. So I think it might be a Clark issue. Okay, cool. Clark is back. Turn your mute. You on mute. There you go.
Can anyone hear me now?
We hear you.
Yes.
I still can't hear anybody. Well, who is our vice chair? Is our vice chair on this in this meeting?
He's here present.
All right. Well, who would like to step up and be the vice chair while I try to figure this out? Bobby, can I rely on you?
The vice chair is here, Tom. Clark, it's Tom.
I can't hear.
I'm trying to text.
Tom is the vice chair. Can you hear? Obviously, here.
I'd just have her start talking.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Let's see. 1, 2. We got 7 present. Oh, we got 8. We got Craig now.
How about now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Loud and clear, Tom.
Any changes to the minutes from last meeting or updates? Hearing none, we have a motion to pass them.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Second by John. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye. Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Next item, Eris, new business?
Yes, what we have before you is the finalization of your budget. Holly is here, and she will be presenting the adjusted budget. If you recall, before I think it was back in April, you passed a budget based off percentages. And you normally do that because we normally do not have your final amounts ready at that time because of assessments and that type of thing. So based on the percentages of your budget, we then take the new amount and apply it to that proportions, okay? So we do have Holly here today who will present her adjusted budget from WDI as the MSD service contractor for this coming year. And once we go through that, if you have any questions, Clark, can you hear us yet? Can you hear us? I guess not. Once she goes through that, then we'll have any discussion about it, okay? Is everybody okay with that plan?
Works for me.
All right. Dylan,
Yeah.
can you load that?
All right, thanks, Eris, and thanks, everyone. I know it's late on a Thursday. I can tell we're all a little lethargic. Let's just maybe need to do some jumping jacks or something to get the energy up. So what I wanted to propose, as you all know, that have been involved with the MSD for since 2016, since the inception and since the creation of the MSD Advisory Committee, WDI has been the contract service provider for the City of Wilmington in running the MSD program. I'm just going to go through briefly the proposal that I have for a change we'd like to see given the new budget. As you know, with the revaluation, the budget for the MSD this year was increased. And so I just want to talk through the request, and then I'm going to talk through the numbers and answer any questions you might have. So the proposal generally is for the addition of a position, a street outreach specialist. It's a pilot program. It's a one-year program that we would like to see implemented specifically to assist the unsheltered population within the city, within downtown Wilmington, within our MSD. The number one concern we've heard from, both from the MSD ambassador feedback as well as folks on the street and the businesses is that, the homeless population is not getting the services they need, right? They're kind of continuing to persist in the downtown, and we want to figure out how to, if they need services, make sure that they get what they need from our downtown. I'm pushing the down button and nothing is happening. Oh, there we go. I've got the clicker's working. Okay, we're on again. So you all know what the MSD service area is, 70 blocks. Went into effect in July 2017. This is just some context that, what we have been providing is ambassadors for additional cleaning, for safety and security, for enhanced beautification, so the hanging baskets, those types of programs, as well as enhanced economic development and targeted marketing and branding. So our current strategies, and we've outlined these several times in various presentations, including this one was actually directly from our City Council presentation that we gave for our annual report back in, I guess it was February, March, it was a while back. But for this last fiscal year, talking about how we are going to continue to focus on safe and clean as our two primary services. That's really our goal. But I've outlined this, or underlined this second and bolded it, just so we really call out, that's what I'd like to focus on today, is that we'd like to continue to work with the police, the social service organizations, and others to figure out how do we better do a better job of outreach to the unsheltered population within downtown. Some of these other bullets you're familiar with, so I won't read them to you. I know the presentation's been provided. So these are just the things that we typically do within the MSD services. So our proposed new initiative is to create a street outreach specialist position. So our current need, as you know, continuing to grow in number, the folks that are unsheltered in downtown Wilmington, and many of the folks that are out there need access. They need help to be able to access the available social services. So while we all acknowledge there are great resources throughout the city and county and great social service agencies, they're all doing great work. The missing piece is that the real gap is trying to connect the people that need the services to the services themselves. And so we strongly believe that adding a trained social worker to our MSD ambassador staff who can dedicate their full-time efforts in a full-time 40-hour per week position, they can build the trust, build the relationships that they need to be able to help people in a meaningful way and connect them with the specific services that they need. So the role of the outreach specialist, and this actually is not from me, this is directly from Block by Block's manual, and I should probably just, again, to put this in context, say that I've been talking about this just as an idea for the last month or two with Block by Block, just trying to kind of, if we did have additional resources, what are some ways we would want to broach this issue, and as it turns out, they do have, and they actually had, whenever I was Economic Development Director in the city of Cincinnati, a very robust outreach specialist program where they have street outreach workers that are trained social workers specifically for this role. So unlike our ambassadors who are not trained to help people with social service issues, this would be someone who is trained to identify individuals who need that help and can be a conduit for connecting them with that help. So the outreach pilot program, again, this is from Block by Block, but it's really to advance the services available for the most vulnerable and highly visible population within our downtown, which is the unsheltered population. So what we would like to see is to be able to make sure that because there are no barriers between our ambassadors that are daily out on the streets on this 70-block area and the members of the street population, we'd like to see relationships built instead of, there being this kind of friction or being standoffishness. We want to make sure that there's trust, and we believe that this position could go a long way towards building trust and also connecting the dots in terms of social services. I think in many cases, in most cities, because there's such a large social service system and it's so spread out and throughout the county as well, trying to figure out how to navigate that, it's very difficult for anyone, but particularly if you're suffering from mental health issues or some sort of addiction and you've got a lot going on in your life, the last thing you need is try to figure this all out yourself. So we feel like this is a really necessary position. So some advantages are that they would be circulating throughout downtown, build the relationships, uncover the reasons why someone is on the street, really kind of build that friendship and try to understand people because they are all individual people who need help. And in one way or another, and to try to understand how they've been served in the past, what their personal goals are, and try to help solve their problems with them in a friend, confident sort of way, and advocate for them. So I think being able to look at the situation and part of our plan is that if we move forward with this pilot program is to have the director of Block by Block Street Outreach Program come to Wilmington. He would be here for a couple of days, mid-September, so next month, be able to look at kind of the current population and situation and see what kind of folks, who's out there and build those relationships. He's very good at initial assessment so that we get some baseline data, because I think, one thing that we do want to make sure of, especially where this is a pilot program, is that we have valid metrics to show that this program is making a difference and is connecting people with services. So this would be a daily kind of ongoing record system. The SMART system is, our MSD ambassadors all have on their iPhones the SMART system that is programmed in, that gives them access to all sorts of information, right? It gives them information about, menus for downtown restaurants and directions, and to help people along the way, and things that are just kind of part of their daily routine. It also, we've had people say, they saw an ambassador here doing something, and it also documents the location of our ambassadors, so we know where the ambassadors are all day, every day while they're on their shifts. We know if they are visiting with these folks, and what's going on, and this SMART system is something that documents too these daily activities, whether it's graffiti removal or trash removal or what have you. All that information is stored, and so the daily activities and the updates for these individuals would also be stored in the SMART system. One of the things, and the mayor and I actually had a conversation with Block by Block about this program, just to kind of get a feel for how it might work if we were to implement it. And one of the things that I think was really unbelievable positive for the program is the SMART system is also designed to, if there's a missing person, so for instance a 16-year-old wanders off and decides that they want to be just in downtown Wilmington, that coordinates to identify and cross-reference with missing persons reports. So I just think there are a lot of benefits to having a specialist in this position that could help us in this way, and work with the ambassador team to identify folks. This person would report directly to the MSD operations manager, so James Slay, and we would continue to provide reports back, as we do every month, to the MSD advisory committee on the progress that's being made and the metrics with the system. So the specifics of the request related to the budget, as Eris mentioned, because we didn't know what the final number was with the budget until end of July. The MSD budget was increased roughly $118,000 for fiscal year 22 with revaluation. So if you take out the percentages of what is used then for personnel for the clean and safe, that's $78,000. So the request that I'm making is to authorize 40 hours per week for a trained social worker for our downtown Wilmington street outreach specialist at $20 per hour. So the $20 per hour plus overhead is about $63,000. And then, so I'll show you, I think the entire budget is probably in here as well in one of the handouts I know that Veronica sent along. So what we'd like to do is dedicate the resources to this additional position, and there are some other changes we're going to make too, but this is the big one, so obviously something that we need to have a further discussion about. And one of the smaller changes, but I think an important one as a piece of this, is that one of the challenges for the unsheltered population is they don't have transportation. So even if there is a great service, if it's outside of downtown, we have to figure out a way to try to get them there. So we are looking at a $1,500 increase in the safety line item to be dedicated toward transportation to services, to try to not only let people know about the services, but actually get them to the services that they need. So as I mentioned, it's a pilot program for this fiscal year. The baseline study, I talked about block by block coming next month. And we really want to connect the dots, right? Make sure the unsheltered and the services they need are matching up. WDI would continue to manage the program, provide metrics in our monthly report, and after 1 year, and throughout the year really, I mean certainly at these monthly meetings, we'll have the opportunity to discuss it, decide whether it's meeting its objectives, if there are any tweaks we need to the program, and a way to kind of continue to assist the unsheltered population, and that we expect to then make future recommendations to City Council based upon the success of the pilot. So that ends my formal presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions, or we can jump right into the budget line by line, or whatever it's the will of the group.
I have a question.
Sure.
What kind of training does it mean? Is there a degree in social work or a licensing?
I believe that there is a licensed social worker. The social worker employee is an employee of Block by Block, not of WDI or the MSD. So just like our ambassadors, it's a contract position, so they have to meet whatever Block by Block's social work outreach is. But yeah, it is a trained social worker. I don't know what the parameters are. And I'd be happy to, I know at some point we talked about, I'd mentioned to Eris that if we wanted to have Block by Block's person call in and talk more about the specifics of the program, or if we move forward, if we end up having the regional person come here, be glad to have him come to a meeting and talk about kind of more of the details of the specifics of the program.
Holly, I just have one question. Is there any contract negotiation or what are we locked into if for some reason this wouldn't work? Like I said, you and I have talked at length.
Right.
I very much think this is the right way to go with what we're dealing with. But are we have to sign a new contract with them? Is it an add-on? Is it an addendum? And if we do that, how, if it turns out they're just not working or something's not right or we need something different,
Right.
How quickly can we pull that? Or are we obligated for the whole
Yeah, so our contract is actually, just as the city's contract with WDI expired on June 30th, our contract with Block by Block also expired on June 30th. So until we get the contract with the city and then we, kind of go down the line, we don't have a contract in place now with Block by Block at all. I mean, technically. Of course, we are continuing to operate, assuming that all of that falls back into place. I would imagine, just as we did this last time, it would be an addendum to the contract, because there are additional changes, and I'll talk about this a little bit in the budget, that we want to make in terms of Block by Block's contract. We typically revisit that every year. It's an annual contract.
Okay, thank you. Over.
Any other questions?
I have a question. This is Clark. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear us now, Clark?
So,
You can hear us now?
I'm sorry?
Oh, good, you can hear us.
I can hear you now. I have my phone
Excellent.
up and running. You mentioned you had this position in Cincinnati.
Yes, we did. Go ahead.
That position was paid for with MSD dollars or with city dollars?
It was the MSD, so it was set up the very same way as you're set up here in Wilmington. So I was the city's economic development director. I was kind of in the Eris role with the city, and we had DCI, Downtown Cincinnati Incorporated, that was the WDI, and they also had for their MSD contracted with Block by Block, and so it's like the Twilight Zone, right? It's exactly the same. But they have, because Cincinnati is a city of 350,000 people, they had more. They started the program. That was the beginning of the program, and that was in 2007, I think. So they've been around for a while doing this in different cities. And Eris and I talked about this. It's been cities of different sizes. I think the closest, from a geographical standpoint, certainly is Charlotte, that has implemented this program. Also with Block by Block, also same deal. They have more than one person on as a street outreach. I don't remember how many they have, but there are some places that are large and have many more unsheltered folks that are like Minneapolis that have 7 of these street outreach workers. So I mean, I think it's a scalable program. If it's something that needs to be scaled, my hope and dream is that if we have one person, that we can start getting people to services and that we won't ever have the need for 5 or 7.
Is there an outline for their hours of operation?
Yes, so
For instance, would it be in the evenings as well? Would it be on the weekends? You mentioned a 40-hour paid position. Is that 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, or is it additional hours?
No,
or varied hours?
Yeah, I think we need to work with them on what the hours are and make them the most strategic hours. I know from personal experience, whenever I walk downtown at 5:15 in the morning to drag down to Axis and hope for the best at the gym, that there are people everywhere that I think could probably that would be a good time to catch people, right? I think if you're trying to build relationships, you want to do it at the times that people are accessible. And so we'll be glad to work with James and with the ambassador program as a whole to try to make those hours as efficient as possible. But I don't think it's a typical 9-to-5 job.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So do we want to just roll through the budget overall? Is that the best way to proceed to do a budget adjustment? I mean, this is the big thing, right? This was the main thing, but I think it's worthwhile to kind of talk through and see if anybody has any questions about the rest of the budget as proposed for adjustment.
I definitely think we should talk about it. As you mentioned, there's about $118,000 additional dollars, but
Right.
this position will take over half of that.
Right.
So I think we should really discuss how this position impacts what we are expecting those funds to go to before this position came up.
Right.
We have the budget loaded, so if you want to talk through that, Holly.
Okay.
He's going to pull it up on the screen. Click on the next tab. Yep.
Okay, so the adjusted budget is on the screen in front of you. As you can see, the approved budget for FY 21-22 is in the H column. That was based upon our previous estimate, which was the number from the last year, right? As Eris said, we just use the same number and then wait for the new number to come in. So last year's number was 444,692. Our new number that was confirmed on 7/28 is the 562,692. So that's the full budget. Eris and I had a meeting about this, and she helped me out because I was a little lost on trying to get the percentages to the exact percentages, so that this was something that the advisory committee had established for what percentage, and I think that is on the next tab, which I can show you here. The percentages that you put based upon your initial budget, to what percentage goes to safe and to clean, physical appearance, marketing, and overhead, right? So if you look at safety is 33%, clean is 34%, physical appearance 10%, 8% for marketing, and 15% for overhead. So going back to the budget numbers themselves, if you apply those percentages, and that's what she was mentioning before, if you apply those same percentages to the new true budget, which is the 562,692, you come up with the numbers that we've outlined. So our total safety then is the 188,655.94. So within that section, I'll just talk about each one of them. The safety is weighted a little bit more towards the street outreach worker, and we had kind of put the street outreach worker. I'm sorry, I take that back. The street outreach worker is half time for each of those, half position for clean and safe, but the additional money we're putting into outreach expenses, like the $1,500 towards transportation, would be additional in the equipment and supplies. So basically, we're going on the personnel line item from 139 to 185. We now have 3.3 full-time equivalents in each section. So we actually have 6.6, almost 7 full-time equivalents in terms of ambassadors. So those are that's the ambassador program itself. So this is adding. We've had 4 to 5 ambassadors recently. We're adding a little bit, another ambassador and a half to this equation, so that we have a little bit more street power. We actually have on that 70 blocks, we've been asked about the shifts. We have typically only 2 per shift. We'd like to get, especially in the times when we have concerts and we have a lot going on downtown, 3 ambassadors on duty at that time. So this would give us a little bit more ambassador time, would give us the street outreach worker, and would also, something that James and I talked about and both felt that was needed was a wage rate increase. Performance-based, of course, certainly not a guaranteed, but right now the average wage for the ambassadors is $12.50. We are proposing that be an average starting wage, but that that we get to an average with the budget of $14 per hour. We both felt that given the quality of work they're doing and the type of work they're doing, that was something that we should consider as well. So, based upon performance, of course. So those are the changes within the personnel line item. If you go on down to equipment, we talked about pressure wash and the outreach, communications, all of those kind of standard things. Aren't really big changes in any of those. Have been, additional trash bag demand, given Project Grace. Again, there's been a lot of cleanup in that area. And, I hope, too, that this is kind of a cycle, right? I hope that if we can help get people from the streets to services, that we have less in terms of trash and things going on as well, and help people get to more permanent than just the food and some of the waste that's left behind. And physical appearance, it's the same for our baskets and landscaping. The potential for unspent funds, we did have, so if you go to physical appearance, if you do the same percentage, as I mentioned before, which physical appearance is 10%. If you go 10% of the budget, then you have this total physical appearance amount with divided up into all of the subcategories that you had before. One of them that wasn't funded previously was holiday decorations, and that was always a unspent potential if you had unspent funds. So if you have unspent funds, we did put $6,600 in there, but the other amounts are the same. I did up the amount for, propose upping it for facade and landscaping and alley grants, particularly because we're adding the alleys in. We've talked about that from time to time if we want to. We've got an alley activation as well for art installations, but I think, alley grants, we've had some inquiries about what if I own property along the alleyway, and rather than a facade grant, I want a grant to help spruce that area up. And so I think that's something we could consider for doing up to 6 projects, the $2,500 matching grant to make that more than a facade grant, but also landscaping and alleyways. When you get on down, again, it's about the same in terms of personnel. Website, $5,000 to $6,000 for, this is the MSD portion of the website where you make service requests. Our website, WDI's, as you know, is under development right now. We've talked about this with Taylor Gray. We expect that to launch next month. It's getting very close. The ratepayer newsletters, and I saw that Eris, there was a memo about the ratepayer newsletters. We need to look into a better way to communicate with the MSD folks electronically. I can't find anywhere, and it could be me just not knowing where to look, that there is any reference to a paper newsletter being required. I don't know that that's in some sort of code somewhere. I haven't seen anything to that effect. But if there is, we're glad to print them and do them. But if not, we'd really like to get to an e-newsletter to communicate. Tom?
I think part of that, Holly, was always that we didn't always have the owners of the buildings or
for email purposes, and
Yep.
so we were just trying to mail them out to the tax records or something like that?
That's correct.
Okay. And I don't know that they need the twice a year, so I feel like, we just need to dig more into that, and I need to know where that originally came from, and I just don't at this point. So if anyone could shed some light on newsletters for me, that would be fantastic. Maybe Eris, maybe somebody that's been around this for a while.
Holly, it was in the enabling legislation that there would be communications. It didn't specifically say newsletters.
Okay.
However, it would just said variable medias of communication.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, and I'm open to if the committee has any ideas on what communication. I mean, you're obviously all, engaged in this process and entrenched in this process, if you have any ideas on how you think we could better communicate with the MSD folks. We are in the process of replacing our position, our staffing position that will be doing the outreach for the MSD at WDI and talking about our services and reaching out to all of the MSD taxpayers personally. So I think, but whenever Tom's right, whenever it comes to the owners of the buildings, trying to track those folks down, we may have some additional work to do to try to figure out how to broach that. So I think that's the summary really of the marketing piece of it. The overhead is the same, 15% that was approved by the committee for a total balanced budget of 562, 692. So, and as you can see, and this is also something that I am learning as we go, we did have in the fiscal year budget that was approved and finished in 6/30, we did have additional funding that was left over, but that funding, Eris was telling me that goes back to the fund balance for additional projects as designated by City Council within the MSD. So we are operating on a balanced budget. We did actually we were under budget last year, but we're trying for a balanced year this year. And so we think it would be a good idea to put some of that funding to use in the street outreach program and some of the other changes that we have recommended. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So one question, you say that with the increased revenue that we're adding about 1.5 full-time equivalents for the ambassadors.
Correct.
And we're also adding a full-time equivalent for street outreach.
Correct.
Correct.
So, and the ambassadors, what I've talked to James about is, if we say 1.5 full-time people, it may not be that it's more people. It may be giving the people that we have more hours. We just want to make sure that we get better coverage. It's just what we're doing now is not enough given the amount of people we have coming downtown, and we know that we need to step up our game. So, I think it's time. And we had talked about too, at some point in the future, if we decide to expand the size, the footprint of the MSD, I want to get the downtown, the 70 blocks that we have right now, perfect before we think about anything beyond what we're doing right now. So I think part of that, getting it perfect, is addressing with Riverfront Park and with all of the new development that's gone on downtown, and with having, the unsheltered population taken care of and trying to, get people to services. I think there are a lot of improvements we can make if we really focus these additional resources on getting that right.
Understood. My question or my comment was going to be, so we're adding in essence 2.5 full-time equivalents personnel.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
All right. Another question in safety. In the 2021 approved budget was $3,600 for equipment and supplies, and we approved $1,500. And now, based on these percentages, we're back up to 3. If we went down from 35 to 15, is there a need to go up to 3?
So the reason it was this is all part of Holly's history lesson, but the reason that in 2021 it was 3563 was because we had Allied Security then, and they had a very expensive communication system. So we really didn't think that we needed more than 1,500, and that's why we approved for the initial budget 1,500. We only spent within that line item, and part of this is accounting, so I can't tell you what the specific, but it was only $163 that actually fell into that particular line item for safety. So, I think that the $3,000, the reason we've got it back up is because we're talking about adding, roughly $2,000 into giving that person who is in that outreach role some funding to help people get to the services they need to get to.
All right. And then another final question on my end, at least for the moment, is down in marketing. We took the 5,000 out for the taxpayer newsletters, and there was a discussion on that. I do remember that, but apparently there was no action taken to withdraw it. Is that how is that 5,000 being reallocated? Part of to the BRE platform? Is that what we did?
Yes. So whenever you, at your last meeting, approved the $12,000 for the BRE platform to be built, 9,000 of it came from the last fiscal year, and 3,000 of it is from this fiscal year. So yes, that's where part of it is going. And then the website piece, and having, again, a full-time person that MSD, so on the personnel line item, MSD pays for 70% of that full-time outreach person, and WDI pays for 30% of it. So it's a split position.
So has the contract with that person, well, you said you don't have that person yet, is that right?
She starts September 13th. Yes, it has been, we will start with her on September 13th.
So I guess I'll rephrase the question. The 36,000, it is actually 70% of their contract?
Right. The 36,000 is 70%, and and that's with everything. That's with, all expenses.
All right. Those were my questions. Any others? So I believe at this point we would need to have a motion to approve this amended budget. Do I have a motion from someone to approve the budget as amended and presented?
Motion.
Second.
That was?
Tom Davis made the motion.
Tom?
Yep.
I'm sorry, was that Tom?
Yes.
Okay, great. Veronica, you're checking all this. Okay. Do I have any further discussions about the motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
And that was?
Elizabeth.
All right. We'll have a vote on the motion, the motion to accept the amended budget as presented. All those in favor, state your name. Clark.
Elizabeth.
Tom.
Teresa. Sorry, Tom. Teresa.
John.
Craig.
Ray.
Bill.
Craig, did you say yes?
Yes.
And Bobby, you said yes?
Yes.
Nancy, excellent. All right, I think that was everybody. Are there any opposed? Say your name. Hearing none, I believe the motion to amend the budget as presented has been approved unanimously. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to follow up with any questions as well.
I would say one thing. We brought up the newsletters and how to improve our communication, and I would like to have some report or something from you, Holly, next meeting or maybe the following meeting on how we might be able to improve that communication.
Okay. So that means I get to figure it out. I mean,
well,
yeah.
You're more than welcome
right.
to. You're more than welcome to communicate with the committee members.
Right.
I'm sure Eris can weigh in on some thoughts about how the city might help. But yeah, I believe that we need to task y'all with trying to help us do that.
Well, one thought, Holly, if it could be, maybe we send out another one and put out some little questionnaire form saying, hey, we're trying to help lower your MSD tax rate. Would every building owner please provide us with some other method of communication so we don't have to mail you stuff?
Yeah, I mean, what, like send back a postcard or something they can send back their email address on or something like that?
Or set up a link to.
Or a preferred method of communication.
Yeah.
I get those every time I sign up for something, some sort of, what is your preferred method of communication? Email or snail mail? That might be a way to do it.
Okay, I mean, I think I think it's something that we need to look at and figure out, and I would hope that after September 13th, we could do that. Whenever we get somebody who can help do that, to get those printed and out, yeah.
All right, I think that's fine. All right, moving on to our agenda, looking down at our agenda. Reports. Lieutenant, let's see, is Lieutenant Belcher on? I'm going to butcher that name. Help me out.
It's Boucher.
You're
Boucher,
fine.
yeah.
Boucher, Boucher is fine.
Boucher.
Boucher.
Okay.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
So I got the stats for downtown and the central business district, and as suspected, our reports and our stats are going up. But the stats that I have, I've also compared to 2019 when we weren't in the middle of quarantine. So overall for the CBD, looking at from January to July of 2019, we're only up 6%. So we had 190 total crimes reported in the CBD area. And this year in 2021, from January to July, we've had 201. So that's only an increase for about 6%. Last year, we had 168. So that was a drop, which, you know, that lets us know that COVID had, or quarantine had a play in that. For the downtown, it is showing from January to July. In 2019, we had 273 cases reported. Currently, from January to July of 2021, we've got 310. Where I'm seeing the increase in offenses is our assault offenses, which that makes sense because the bars are now open. So we're getting more of the drunken assaults downtown. Those increased from 60, actually it decreased from 2019, but it's increased from last year. So we went from 52 to 61 as of last year. Another category is larcenies, and most of those that I've looked over the past months have been like just larcenies of opportunity, whether somebody left their phone and now it's been picked up, a wallet, stuff off porches. We do have larcenies, those do larcenies from vehicles. And I will say that in the last month or two, we've been hit hard with break-ins to vehicles. So those would be counted in those larcenies. For July, we've had 16 total larcenies, which would also include those break-ins to vehicles. The other couple of them, I see like offenses that would be considered on my part, like proactive type offenses. We went from 32 drug offenses in 2019 to 61 drug offenses in 2021, and we had 38 last year. So those could be any drug offenses that we did a vehicle stop, we got drugs, we got out with somebody, there were drugs, or it could be that there was an overdose and it didn't fall under the immunity laws and they may have been charged with drug offenses as well. And then weapon laws, those are normally kind of like traffic stop type situations. And from 2019, January to July, we had 7, and then this year we've had 19 weapon law violations, and those could be like carrying a concealed weapon illegally. Those are the main ones for weapon laws. It could be firearm by felon, maybe another one as well. So overall for downtown, if we're looking at 2019, not 2020, we're up 14% from January to July. So I'm hoping that will even out once we get into fall, because we are in the middle of summer. So some of those are gonna increase. Any questions on that? The other thing that I would like to add, is I know that you're talking about the social worker. I know that the city's had meetings with various groups that deal with homelessness. And I know recently the police department had a meeting with some of the groups that deal with homelessness too. So I would like for at some point that if we do get the social worker, that maybe we can get all these entities in so that we're not doing like 3 different things or 2 different things. And anything I can do to help with that as well, I'm willing to do that. But I would hate for us to be doing 2 different things when we can maybe bring all these resources in together and work instead of having one group do their thing and then we've got our group doing another. And that might expand it as well.
So, Lieutenant Boucher, this is Holly again. I just wanted to say that I think that's a great idea. I had been asked to speak at that Homeless Continuum of Care group back in May, whenever we had our same poor one ambassador, David Poppy, that was assaulted twice within the space of a couple of weeks about what was going on with downtown. And so we had a discussion, a very open discussion then, which led to Tafana Bradley, the assistant county manager, then organized a subsequent meeting with the providers. And so I would love to see everybody get on the same page. And one thing that we do want to stress is that bringing the social worker in isn't to like replace or threaten, or it's trying to help coordinate things. So right. I think it's really important that we make sure there's no duplication of efforts here, because everybody's got plenty to do. So however we can do this the most efficiently.
I think the other issue, and I'm sure we all understand it, but just from some of the things that I've heard, if the ambassadors are going to talk to people, they're going to tell them that there's no resources. But if you listen to the other side, especially with this meeting, I'm not saying everybody, but there's just some people that you can throw whatever resources at them and they're just not going to take it. There are some, Angela, I think she's gotten some help. I hope that will continue. There's another female downtown. They have offered her, she doesn't want to move out of county, but has resources, but she's refusing to take the resources that are available. So we just need to make sure that we understand that aspect of it too. I've had people that have agreed to go to detox, but as soon as they come back out, they're drinking again. So I think it's a great solution. I'm not saying that this is not something that we should do. I'm like,
oh, she's frozen.
Yeah. Well, I know that Eris has to step out, so I would like to, maybe we can get Lieutenant Boucher back, but let's see if we can get Eris up and give her a quick report. So, and then Holly, we'll have you back up for WDI's report.
Thank you, Clark, for letting me kind of go out of order. I do have another meeting to get to, but just real quickly, a couple things that are going on downtown. Of course, we are excited. The park is open, construction is done, and things seem to be moving very, very rapidly up on our north end. Believe it or not, we haven't had a parking problem, and I think that is a good a testament to how we have designed things and how we have coordinated with our downtown parking partners, such as Cape Fear Community College and some of our private parking spaces and private lots that are absorbing some parking. So we did have what I'm thinking of close to capacity event which I think was a 3-day concert. We did not have a problem with that, so we're very hopeful that we have satisfied that concern in downtown. We do have some, we're trying to expand our MSD services into the area, and so we're still working out some kinks with some of our neighbors with the park, so we will look to report back to you on how that's going, but so far we're doing pretty good. We do have some construction, of course, downtown, and it's a lot. We know it's inconvenient, and we're working through it. We're actually reactivating a committee that we had internally, which was a downtown coordinating committee that we're reactivating, and we're trying to start to get those notices back out to you as we did at one time. Outside of that, of course, River Place is filling up with their tenants and their residents, and I think that's going as smooth as possible, as well as we do have a few what I'm going to call infill projects happening downtown. But other than that, I think we're doing, for the most part, just trying to coordinate all these many tentacles that are working in downtown right now and trying to keep things moving. We did have some good parking numbers the past 2 months. So despite the pandemic, people are still coming. And we did have some activity start back at the convention center. Hopefully it's going to hold up. With the variant, we just don't know. I do want to make sure that everybody is aware as of 5 o'clock on tomorrow, we will be having a mask mandate, and hopefully everybody will be protecting themselves and operating accordingly. It's for the safety of everybody, so hopefully we can get through this phase that we're in right now. Are there any questions for me? I do have to step out to another meeting. I'm sorry. While in my
Thank you, Eric.
Chance, I think, is on, and if you have any questions, he will either direct them to me or he will try to answer them for you, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. All right, Holly, I can ask you back up for WDI's report if you have anything further to add.
Sure. So beyond the ambassador expansion, for the street outreach, other things that we've been focused on at WDI are, again, these transformative economic development projects. Because the board at the end of the fiscal year did make the decision to no longer be in the concert production business, we are now fully focused on economic development projects. Those include Project Grace, which we're working on now with the county and the development team, with Cape Fear Museum and the library. And also the redevelopment of the Soda Pop District, so the whole Soda Pop, the Coca-Cola building redevelopment to keep the building in place and redevelop it with with Paramount SC, who is now the known developer on the project that has come forward and is going to be redeveloping it, and also 2 other downtown Central Business District development projects with out-of-town developers. So I think there are just a lot of exciting things going on, and we're glad to be a part of them. We're also continuing to focus on our microloan program. We have 5 of them now closed. It's been a little slower in the summer, to be honest, so if anyone knows of people, businesses that could take advantage of the microloan program, it is still a program of, it's up to $20,000, up to 5 years. It's at 2.44%, so it's cheap money if it's there. So it doesn't have to be a new business. It can be a new business. It can be a startup. As long as they're within either the Central Business District or one of the emerging districts around the area, we are more than happy to look at additional applications. We have still about $500,000, I think it's like 470 something, in that fund to distribute. So we have a good bit of capacity and would love to see that money go to use. So, so those are the primary things we're working on, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments, concerns from committee members? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
Motion. Tom. baby.
Thanks, Tom. Second?
Second.
Excellent. All right, folks, we appreciate it. All right, all those in favor, get out of your chair. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.